Commander Lisa Bennett took a deep breath as she stood at the entrance of the Galactic Council chambers. The massive doors, carved from the rare blue stone of the Ardani homeworld, towered above her human frame. Behind her stood her team, Admiral John Carter, whose weathered face showed the scars of 3 decades in space; Diplomat Eric Russell, whose kind eyes hid a mind sharp as a blade; and Security Chief Olivia Winters, whose quiet stance belied her deadly skills. "Ready?" Lisa asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. John nodded. 200 years of being talked down to. I'd say we're more than ready. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. The council chamber spread before them like a vast amphitheater. 57 species from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose toward the ceiling. Light filtered through crystal panels, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Lisa led her team down the central aisle. She felt hundreds of alien eyes watching their every move, some with curiosity, others with disdain, most with the cool detachment that had defined humanity's treatment since first contact. Counselor Zixtar of the Velrati Consensus leaned forward, his crystalline body catching the light. Earth's delegation may approach and state their business. Lisa stepped onto the speaker's platform. A small screen before her lit up with a translation of her words into the 23 official council languages. She ignored it. Today she wanted no possibility of misunderstanding. "Honored counselors," she began, using the traditional opening that had been drilled into every Earth diplomat. "For 2 centuries, humanity has been part of this esteemed body. We joined with hope and enthusiasm after our first steps into faster-than-light travel." The chamber remained silent. This was standard diplomatic speech so far. We brought fresh perspectives, innovative solutions, and an eagerness to learn from the elder races. In return, we received restrictions disguised as guidance, limits presented as protection, and rules that somehow always benefited the founding members at our expense. A low murmur spread through the chamber. This was not the usual human deference. 15 times we proposed changes to the technology sharing accord. 15 times our proposals were blocked. 27 times we requested full access to the historical archives. 27 times we were told we were not ready. Lisa paused, letting her words sink in. On the upper levels, the Zekthal representatives chittered among themselves, their insect-like mandibles clicking rapidly. 3 times we asked for help when our colonies faced natural disasters. 3 times we were told that resources were allocated elsewhere. Yet when the Ardani needed assistance with their moon stabilization, this council found the resources within a week. Counselor Malvan of the Ardani rose to his feet, his gray skin flushing purple with anger. "Earth representative, you tread on dangerous ground. The situations were not comparable." "They were exactly comparable," Lisa cut in. "The only difference was that one involved your people and the other involved mine." The chamber erupted in voices. The Lorathi delegates' musical tones rose above the rest, trying to restore order. Lisa waited for the noise to subside. When it did, she continued, her voice now cold and precise. "The United Earth Alliance has compiled a document outlining 200 years of systematic discrimination against our species. It has been transmitted to every member world's government. We did not come here to debate these points or to request yet another review committee." She straightened her shoulders. "The United Earth Alliance hereby announces its withdrawal from the Galactic Council and all associated treaties, effective immediately." The stunned silence lasted only 3 seconds before chaos broke out. Counselor Zixtar rose to his full 10-foot height, his crystal form vibrating with emotion. "You cannot simply leave. The treaties, the trade agreements, the defense pacts are no longer binding," Lisa finished for him. "Article 157 of the Founding Charter allows for withdrawal with immediate effect if a member nation determines that continued membership threatens its sovereignty or survival. We have made that determination." "This is absurd," shouted a representative from the Boros hegemony. "Humanity has benefited greatly from Council protection." Eric Russell stepped forward, activating his datapad. Our analysis shows that Earth has contributed 15% more resources to Council defense than it has received in protection services. The data is clear. The Sekthal Prime Speaker's voice cut through the noise. And what of your obligations? The shared technology? The knowledge gained? John Carter smiled thinly. We've calculated fair value for all technology transfers. The sum has been deposited in the Council treasury. As for knowledge, well, we earned that through our own studies and efforts. You can't take back education once it's given. The Lorathi. Counselor Ektai, always the voice of reason, rose gracefully. Commander Bennett, surely we can discuss your concerns. A temporary withdrawal of participation, perhaps, while we address these grievances? Lisa shook her head. We submitted our concerns through proper channels for 2 centuries. The time for discussion has passed. This is unprecedented, Zixtar declared. No species has ever withdrawn from the Council once admitted. Then we are proud to be the first, Lisa replied. Perhaps it will inspire you to treat the next young species with more respect. She turned to her team and nodded. As one, they turned their backs on the Council and walked toward the exit. You will regret this, called out the Boros representative. The dangers of deep space are not to be faced alone. Lisa paused at the doors but didn't turn around. We faced them alone while supposedly under your protection. The difference now is that we won't be held back by your rules. The human delegation walked out of the chamber. The doors closed behind them with a final heavy thud. In the hallway, Eric let out a long breath. Well, that happened. Any signs of immediate response? Lisa asked Olivia, who was monitoring security channels. Nothing yet. They're still arguing among themselves. No movement from the Council guard. John checked his wrist display. All human ships across Council space have received the signal. They're implementing protocol exodus as we speak. Lisa nodded. And the Independence? Captain Ramirez reports ready for departure. All systems green. They walked briskly through the grand corridors of the Council hall. Alien diplomats and officials moved out of their way, staring with a mixture of shock and curiosity. 200 years ended in 5 minutes, Eric murmured. Lisa nodded. And now comes the hard part. They don't believe we can survive without them. We need to prove them wrong. They reached the docking bay where their shuttle waited. Through the massive viewport, they could see their ship, the UES Independence, sleek and powerful, hovering beyond the station's arms. As they boarded the shuttle, Lisa looked back at the Council hall one last time. For generations, humans had walked these halls as grateful juniors eager to please. That era was over. Take us home, she told the pilot. As the shuttle lifted off, heading toward the Independence, Lisa allowed herself a small smile. The real show was about to begin. Kevin Walsh stood at the window of the Proxima Centauri III Colonial Administration building, watching the twin suns set over the purple mountains. His tablet beeped for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Another urgent message from another worried colonist. Are you going to answer any of those? Diane Clark asked from her desk. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and shadows under her eyes showed she hadn't slept much since the news broke 3 days ago. Kevin sighed. What can I tell them that they don't already know? Yes, Earth left the Council. Yes, we're on our own now. No, I don't know what happens next. The holographic display in the center of the office flickered as it cycled through various alien news channels. Kevin had learned enough of the major Council languages during his 15 years as a Navy engineer to catch the general tone, even without the translations. The human rebellion, said a Velrati broadcaster, his crystal form glittering with what passed for excitement in their species. Earth's foolish gamble, declared an Ardani commentator. Historic withdrawal raises questions about Council policies, offered a Lorathi analysis program, always more balanced in their reporting. Diane walked over and stood beside Kevin. They thought we'd never do it, she said quietly. All these years we filed complaints, we followed their rules, we played nice. They never believed we would actually walk away. Because no one ever has, Kevin replied. In 5,000 years of Council history, No species has ever left voluntarily. His tablet beeped again. This time it was different. A direct call from Earth Command. Kevin answered immediately. "Administrator Walsh," said a stern-faced woman on the screen. "This is Secretary Bennett. I trust you've been briefed on the situation?" Kevin straightened his posture automatically. Everyone knew Lisa Bennett, the woman who had told the entire Galactic Council to go to hell 3 days ago. "Yes, Secretary. We received the initial alert and have been monitoring incoming information." "Good. Proxima Centauri 3rd is about to become much more important to Earth's future. You're our oldest colony and our strongest foothold outside the solar system." Diane moved closer to see the screen. "Madam Secretary, our colonists are concerned. We rely on Council trade for 40% of our medical supplies and nearly 30% of our food imports." Bennett nodded. "That's about to change. Within the next 6 hours, you'll receive the first ships from Sol. They're carrying supplies, personnel, and equipment to activate the defense grid." Kevin blinked in surprise. "Defense grid? What defense grid?" For the first time, Bennett smiled. "The one that's been built in pieces over the last 50 years, disguised as standard infrastructure. Those communication relay stations on your moons, they're actually military-grade sensor arrays. Those weather control platforms in orbit, weapon systems capable of destroying a medium-sized warship." Kevin and Diane exchanged shocked looks. "Did you think Earth would leave the Council without a plan?" Bennett continued. "For decades, we've been preparing for this possibility. Every colony has hidden defenses. Every outpost has concealed capabilities. We just needed the right moment to activate them." "The Council will see this as a provocation," Diane said. "The Council will see this as proof they were right to fear us," Bennett corrected. "But by the time they detect and understand what we've done, it will be too late for them to stop us." The call ended, leaving Kevin and Diane staring at the blank screen. "Did you know about any of this?" Diane asked. Kevin shook his head slowly. "I helped install some of those weather platforms. The design seemed unusual, but nothing that screamed weapon system." Outside the window, a flash of light caught their attention. A ship dropped out of FTL travel just beyond the atmosphere, much closer than regulations allowed. It was a human vessel, sleek and dark against the fading sunlight, unlike the bulky Council-approved designs they were used to seeing. Kevin's communication unit chimed. "Administrator Walsh, this is Captain Sam Rivera of the UES Defiance. Request permission to begin defense grid activation protocols." "Already?" Kevin asked, surprised at the speed of events. "Yes, sir. The situation across Council space is developing. Quickly. We need this colony secured within the next 12 hours. Kevin took a deep breath. "Permission granted, Captain. What do you need from us?" "Please issue a colony-wide notice. There will be power fluctuations as systems come online. And, sir, it might be best if people stayed indoors tonight. Some of the visual effects can be unsettling." As night fell over the colony, Kevin addressed the 30,000 colonists via emergency broadcast. He explained as much as he could, promised that they were safe, and asked for calm and cooperation. Then he and Diane returned to the administration tower's observation deck to watch history unfold. It began with the moons. All 3 of Proxima Centauri III's small moons suddenly glowed with blue light as hidden systems activated. The orbital platforms that they'd all grown used to seeing as simple climate regulators changed configuration, panels shifting to reveal what were clearly weapon ports and shield generators. "How did they hide all this?" Diane whispered. "The Council inspectors came through twice a year." "And always on schedule with plenty of warning," Kevin replied. "Remember how certain sections would always be undergoing maintenance during their visits?" The ground beneath them hummed as underground facilities powered up. In the distance, the colony's main power plant flared brightly, then settled into a new rhythm as it connected to previously dormant systems. "Administrator," called a technician from inside. "You need to see this." They hurried back to the control room where a new holographic display had appeared. A real-time strategic map showing not just their system, but the entire human sphere of influence across known space. 27 colonies. 8 outposts, dozens of mining operations, all of them lighting up as hidden defenses came online. And between them, moving fast, were hundreds of ships that had never appeared on any official registry. "That's impossible," Diane said. "Where did all these ships come from?" "Jupiter's shadow shipyards," replied Captain Rivera, who had joined them in the control room. "Mars underground facilities, the dark side lunar base, places the Council knew nothing about or chose to ignore." "All these years," Kevin murmured. "All these years we were building toward this moment. Not just building ships and weapons," Rivera said. "Building something more important, independence." On the strategic display, a new symbol appeared near Alpha Centauri, a Council diplomatic vessel moving toward the nearest human colony. "And so it begins," Rivera said. "They'll try talking first, then economic pressure, then threats." "And when none of that works?" Diane asked. The captain's expression was grim. "That's why we need these defenses. Not everyone in the Council thinks of humans as equals worthy of respect. Some see us as dangerous upstarts who need to be put in our place." Kevin watched as more Council ships appeared on the display, moving into position near human territories. "How long has Earth been planning this withdrawal?" he asked. "In some form?" "Since the first day we joined," Rivera answered. "The lesson of human history is clear. Trust is good, but self-reliance is better. We hoped for the best from the Council, but we prepared for the worst." Outside, the night sky above the colony was transformed as defense shields shimmered into existence, casting a faint blue glow over the landscape. "What happens now?" Diane asked. Kevin turned from the window to face the room full of nervous staff and the determined captain. "Now," he said, "we show the galaxy what humanity can do when we're not held back." Dr. Olivia Martinez hadn't slept in 3 days. The small cot in her office at Luna Command remained untouched as she moved between monitoring stations, checking readings and making adjustments. The massive underground facility hummed with activity, as hundreds of scientists and engineers worked around the clock. "How are the power levels?" she asked, rubbing her tired eyes. Lieutenant Frank Turner looked up from his console. "Holding steady at 63%. The Boros singularity is responding exactly as predicted." Olivia nodded and took a sip of cold coffee. What they were attempting had never been done before, at least not by humans. Ancient records suggested the Forerunners, a species long extinct, had managed similar feats millions of years ago. A door slid open, and General Scott Miller entered the control room. His uniform was crisp despite the late hour, but the dark circles under his eyes matched Olivia's. "The Council has sent another delegation," he informed her. "This one led by the Lorathi themselves." "What did we tell them this time?" Olivia asked, not looking up from her data. "The same thing we told the last 3. We're engaged in peaceful energy research within our own territory. They're welcome to observe from a safe distance." Frank chuckled. "I bet that went over well." "About as well as you'd expect," the general replied. "They're demanding to know why we have 57 massive structures suddenly appearing around a neutron star." Olivia finally looked up. "Did you tell them it's actually 63 structures? They still can't detect the smaller ones." A smile flickered across the general's tired face. "I thought we'd leave them a few surprises." The main display showed a real-time image of the Boros singularity, a neutron star on the edge of what had been Council space. Around it, enormous structures hung in space like metal petals surrounding a deadly flower. Each petal was 5 kilometers long, composed of materials that had been smuggled piece by piece over decades. For years, the shipments had been disguised as mining equipment, research materials, or standard colony supplies. The Council, comfortable in their technological superiority, had never questioned why humans needed so much raw material. "Energy collection at 67% and climbing," Frank reported. "The Dyson swarm is performing better than our models predicted." A Dyson swarm, the partial enclosure of a star to harvest its energy, was theoretical technology according to official Council records. No species had successfully built one at this scale. The Council's own attempts had failed due to material limitations they hadn't overcome. Yet humans had solved the problem by approaching it differently. Instead of using traditional materials, they had developed new alloys specifically designed for the task. It was a perfect example of why humanity had grown frustrated with the Council. Human innovation was often dismissed until proven, but rarely given the chance to prove itself. "Time to Phase 2? General Miller asked. Olivia checked her readings one more time. "Yes, we're ready. Send the signal." The general pressed his palm against a secure terminal. "Authorization. Miller 7729 Echo. Execute Operation Crossroads." All around the room, screens shifted to show a new set of readings. Far away from the Boros singularity, in empty space between Earth and its furthest colony, new equipment activated. "Gateway. Initiators online," Frank announced. "Power flow is stable, beginning space-time manipulation sequence." On the main screen, the image shifted to show what appeared to be empty space, but as they watched, the blackness began to ripple and distort. A faint blue glow appeared, growing stronger by the second. "Receiving connection signal from the Arcturus team," another technician called out. "They're ready on their end." Olivia took a deep breath. This was the moment everything changed. If this worked, humanity would no longer be bound by the Council's transit regulations, the rules that had kept human expansion in check for generations. "Initiate final sequence," she ordered. The blue glow in space intensified, then suddenly expanded into a perfect circle of swirling energy, a controlled tear in the fabric of space-time. "Gateway established," Frank reported, his voice filled with awe despite his professional demeanor. "Connection to Arcturus stable at 92% efficiency." A cheer went up around the control room. Some technicians hugged each other while others sat stunned at their stations. Olivia felt tears in her eyes as she watched the gateway, humanity's achievement, humanity's future. General Miller stepped forward. "Send the test vessel." From a nearby staging area, a small unmanned ship approached the gateway. It paused briefly at the edge of the swirling energy, then moved forward and vanished. 30 seconds of tense silence followed. "Receiving transmission from Arcturus," Frank announced. "Test vessel has arrived safely. Travel time 27.3 seconds. More cheers erupted. The journey would have taken 3 weeks using conventional FTL drives through Council-controlled transit. "Points. What's the status of the Council observation vessels?" Olivia asked. A security officer checked her screen. "They're agitated. 2 have changed position to get a better view. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, demanding explanations." "Let them watch," General Miller said. "That's the point of this demonstration. On the colony world of New." Tara, Sharon Miller, guided her class of 12-year-olds outside the school building. The children squinted up at the bright afternoon sky. "I don't see anything, Ms. Miller," complained one boy. "Just wait," Sharon told them. The message said it would be visible at exactly 2:15. The school had received an alert that morning. A historic event would be visible in the sky. No details were provided, but all schools were encouraged to allow students to witness it. As the time approached, Sharon checked her watch nervously. Then, right on schedule, the sky rippled. A faint blue shimmer appeared directly overhead, lasting for about 10 seconds before fading away. The children gasped and pointed excitedly. "What was that?" asked a girl in the front row. Sharon smiled, though she was as surprised as her students. "That, kids, is humanity making history." Back at Luna Command, Olivia watched as data poured in from across human space. On every colony, on every outpost, observers had seen the momentary distortion in the sky, the visual effect of the gateway network coming online. "General, we're receiving new signals," Frank said urgently. "Multiple Council vessels are changing course, heading toward human territories." "Military vessels?" the general asked sharply. "No, sir. Science ships, diplomatic vessels, even some private craft. They're coming to see what we've done." Olivia laughed softly. "Of course they are. We just did what they said couldn't be done." General Miller nodded. "And we're not finished yet." He turned to address the entire command center. Well done, everyone. Phase 1 and 2 are complete. But this is just the beginning. On his secure tablet, a message appeared from Earth Command, from Secretary Bennett herself. The Council has called an emergency session, all species attending, even those who haven't participated in centuries. Your demonstration worked perfectly. They're finally paying attention. Olivia looked at the swirling gateway on the main screen. So what's Phase 3? The General's expression was serious but satisfied. Now we negotiate, but this time as equals. Across Council space, monitoring stations continued to detect the massive energy surge from the Boros singularity. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive suddenly faced the reality of what they had become. A technological force operating outside the established order. And for the first time in its 5,000-year history, the Galactic Council was afraid of what might come next. Patrick Wilson raced through the streets of New Horizon Colony, his lungs burning with each breath. Above him, the sky had turned from peaceful blue to a chaotic battlefield in less than an hour. "Get to the shelters," he shouted at a family frozen, in fear on their porch. "Underground now!" The mother snapped out of her shock and grabbed her children, hurrying toward the colony's emergency bunkers. Patrick continued his run toward the residential sector, where many elderly colonists might not have heard the alarms. It had been 6 months since humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council. 6 months of rapid expansion, technological, unveiling, and tense negotiations with various council races. New Horizon, one of the newer colonies on the edge of human space, had been thriving with new settlers and increased trade through the Gateway network. Then the attack came without warning. Dark ships, unlike any council design, had appeared, suddenly in orbit. They didn't broadcast demands or warnings. They simply opened fire on the colony's newly installed defense systems. Patrick rounded a corner and found a young boy sitting on the ground, crying. A piece of debris had fallen nearby and the child was too frightened to move. "Hey there," Patrick said, kneeling down. "What's your name?" "Sam," the boy sniffled. "Well, Sam, I'm Patrick. We need to get somewhere safe. Can you come with me?" The boy nodded and stood up. Patrick took his hand and led him toward the nearest shelter entrance. Another explosion rocked the ground as an orbital defense platform was destroyed. Patrick looked up to see human ships engaging the attackers, sleek vessels that had been hidden in the colony's shipyards until today. They fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. "Who are they?" Sam asked, his voice small. "Why are they attacking us?" Patrick shook his head. "I don't know, buddy. They're not council ships, and that was the most frightening part. Everyone had expected that if trouble came, it would be from the council races unhappy with humanity's newfound independence. But these attackers were something else entirely. From the safety of the shelter entrance, Patrick watched as one of the human vessels executed a desperate ramming maneuver, destroying itself and an enemy ship in a brilliant flash of light. Fike. Sacrifice bought enough time for a transport full of civilians to escape to the gateway. "Get inside, sir," urged a security officer at the shelter door. "We're sealing the entrances in 2 minutes." Patrick ushered Sam inside and helped the officers direct people to their assigned sections. The underground facility had been built to hold the entire colony's population of 30,000, though no one had ever expected to need it. As the massive doors sealed with a heavy thud, Patrick's communications device beeped. It was an emergency broadcast from Earth Command. "Attention all colonies. We are under attack by previously unknown forces identifying themselves as the Veiled Dominion. This is not a council action. Repeat, this is not a council action. All defensive measures are authorized. All civilian evacuations should proceed according to Protocol Delta." Around him, people huddled in frightened groups, some crying, others praying, many just sitting in stunned silence. Patrick had been appointed as a community coordinator just 3 months ago, a civilian position meant to help organize cultural events and welcome new settlers. Now he found himself responsible for keeping these people calm during an alien invasion. "What's Protocol Delta?" asked an elderly woman nearby. Patrick tried to sound more confident than he felt. "It means the military will protect evacuation. Routes first, critical infrastructure second. Their priority is getting civilians to safety through the Gateway network. And then what? Someone else asked. Where do we go? Earth has contingency plans, Patrick assured them, hoping it was true. We'll be relocated to inner colonies until it's safe to return. On the UES Liberty, orbiting a safe distance from the Arcturus Gateway, Commander Nicole Harris analyzed attack patterns from 6 different colonies. Her tactical display showed the same scenario playing out across human space. Precise strikes against defense systems, followed by targeted attacks on military vessels, then occupation of orbit around human worlds. They're methodical, she told Admiral Carter via quantum link. They're testing our defenses, adapting to our responses. The Admiral's holographic image nodded grimly. The attacks are widespread, coordinated across too much space to be a coincidence. They were waiting for us to leave the Council's protection. Or, waiting for us to develop technology worth stealing, Nicole suggested. The timing seems convenient, right after we revealed the Dyson Swarm and Gateway Network. The question is, do we help the Council worlds that are also under attack, or focus on protecting our own? That had been the most surprising development. The Veiled Dominion wasn't just targeting human colonies. They had also launched strikes against several outer Council worlds, particularly those of the smaller, less powerful species. Latest intelligence from the Larathi border, Nicole reported, checking a new data feed. 3 agricultural worlds hit hard. The Council defense fleet is stretched thin trying to respond to all fronts. They never expected to fight a war without human ships supporting them, Carter noted. For all their talk about protecting us, we made up almost 30% of their combined fleet strength. The tactical display updated as new information came in. The pattern was becoming clearer. The Veiled Dominion was creating a wedge between human and Council space, attacking the border worlds of both. Sir, Nicole said slowly, I think they're trying to keep us separated, preventing us from joining forces, which means they fear what would happen if we did, Carter replied. Interesting. A priority alert flashed on Nicole's screen. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the research vessel UES Discovery. They say it's urgent. Eyes, only for Secretary Bennett. Within the hour, Secretary of Defense Lisa Bennett was looking at Dr. Paul Adams via secure quantum link. The scientist looked exhausted, but excited, his normally neat appearance disheveled after days without proper rest. You're certain about this? Lisa asked, studying the ancient text translations he had sent. Absolutely, Paul replied. We found references in the archives we downloaded before leaving the Council. They were buried deep, classified sections that we weren't supposed to access. The Veiled Dominion isn't new, they've been here before. Lisa leaned forward. Explain. According to records from at least 5 different Council species, the Dominion appeared at the edge of the galaxy approximately 7,000 years ago. They attacked for 3 years, then retreated without explanation. The Council classified all information about them afterward. Why would they hide this? Paul's expression darkened. Because they knew the Dominion would return someday. The Ardani have a prophecy that specifically mentions the veil lifting again when the young ones reach beyond their station. They knew this was coming, Secretary. They knew, and they kept us in the dark. Lisa sat back, the implications settling in. The Council hadn't just been condescending to humanity. They had deliberately withheld information about a threat that could destroy them all. There's more, Paul continued. The ancient records suggest the Dominion retreated last time because they faced unified resistance from all galactic species. No single race could stand against them alone. Lisa's mind raced through the possibilities, the strategies, the diplomatic implications. Then she made a decision. Dr. Adams, continue your research. I need everything you can find about the Dominion's technology, tactics, and weaknesses. And what will you do, Madam Secretary? Lisa's expression was grim but determined. I'm going to call the Council. It seems humanity needs to return to the galactic community. But this time, on our terms. As she ended the call, Lisa looked out, the window of her office at Earth below. For generations, humans had dreamed of standing equal among the stars. Now, faced with this unexpected threat, They might get their chance, if they could survive long enough to claim it. The Lima Accords were signed exactly 1 year after humanity's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council. The document wasn't a return to the old ways, but something entirely new, a treaty of equals, not of masters and students. In orbit above, Earth, the massive defensive platform nicknamed Guardian hummed with power. Its sleek curves and sharp angles represented the perfect blend of human creativity and alien precision. 7 council races had contributed technology to its construction, while human engineers had solved the integration problems that had previously made such cooperation impossible. On the diplomatic vessel UES Concord, Lisa Bennett faced the alien representatives across a perfectly circular table. The symbolism was intentional. No head, no foot, just equals gathered to confront a common threat. The veiled Dominion expected to find us divided, she said, her voice calm but firm. They studied our history, both human and council, and saw our conflicts. They expected to exploit the gap between us. Counselor Ektai of the Lorathi inclined her head, causing the musical tones of her translator to shimmer in the air. We did not appreciate what humanity brought to our community until we faced its absence. Your perspective is valuable. More than valuable, added the Ardani representative, his gray skin flushed with the purple hue of sincerity. Essential. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. 6 months of brutal war against the Dominion had changed many things. Council races that had looked down on humans now sought their innovative tactical approaches. Humans who had resented council restrictions now appreciated the deep knowledge and experience the older species possessed. The combined fleet is ready, announced Admiral Carter from a holographic display. Beside him stood Captain Amy Phillips, whose brilliant defensive maneuver at New Horizon had saved 3 colony worlds from destruction. On the display behind them, the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen assembled near the Arcturus Gateway. Human ships with their unconventional designs and overwhelming firepower, council vessels with their refined technology and precision systems. Together, they prepared to strike back at the heart of Dominion territory. We have identified their central command structure, Captain Phillips explained, highlighting a distant star system on the map. The captured Dominion communication device Dr. Adams recovered gave us their exact coordinates. The plan was audacious: use the human gateway network to bypass Dominion defenses and strike directly at their leadership. It was the kind of high-risk, high-reward strategy that Council military doctrine would never have approved before. But these were different times. There is still much we don't understand about the Dominion, cautioned Counselor Zixtar, his crystalline form catching the light. Their technology, their motives, their true capabilities. True, Lisa agreed, but we know enough to act. We know they fear unity above all else. Why else would they work so hard to keep us separated? From New Terra, now transformed into the forward headquarters for the Alliance, Admiral Carter addressed the multi-species officers gathered in the command center. The room that had once been a simple colonial administration building now housed the most sophisticated command and control systems ever created. We walked out because we weren't respected, Carter told them. We return now not as supplicants but as partners. The galaxy held its breath when humanity left the Council. Now it will watch as we lead the charge to save it. As the United Fleet prepared to depart, billions across dozens of worlds watched the transmission. Human and alien alike, they shared the same thought. The galaxy would never be the same. In her private quarters aboard the Concord, Lisa reviewed the final details of the assault plan. A knock at her door revealed Eric Russell, the diplomat who had stood with her that day in the council chambers. Having second thoughts? He asked, noting her serious expression. Lisa shook her head. Just reflecting on how we got here. We left to find independence. Instead, we found a better kind of interdependence. And made some history along the way, Eric added with a smile. Lisa nodded and closed the battle plans. Tomorrow would bring either victory or defeat. But one thing was certain. Humanity had finally found its place among the stars. Not as newcomers to be tolerated or students to be taught, but as vital partners in the future of the galaxy. The path had been unexpected, the cost high, but as Earth ships moved into formation alongside their alien allies, Lisa knew it had been worth it. Humanity had walked out on the old order, and in doing so, had helped create something better. End.